Megiddo was hot, not the dry, clean heat of a laboratory kill, but a wet, heavy blanket of air that smelled of diesel fumes and ancient dust. I stood on the ridge of Tel Megiddo, shielding my eyes against the glare. Below us, the Jezreel Valley spread out like a green quilt. It looked peaceful. It usually did, right before the shooting started. Tour buses, Yousef said, spitting into the dust. He lowered his binoculars, 3 of them, north quadrant. German plates, but the suspension is riding low. Those aren't tourists. SVR? I asked, adjusting the strap of the sensor array I'd hauled up the hill. Worse, Yousef grimaced. Contractors. Probably Wagner remnants or some other renegade outfit on the Pythagorean payroll. Hockney isn't trusting his divine equation to faith alone. He's brought security. I knelt and deployed the sensor tripod. It was a custom job, a gravimetric distortion detector, disguised as a surveyor's theodolite. I leveled the bubble and flipped the switch. The needle on the readout didn't just jump, it danced. Readings? Yousef asked. Off the scale, I said. Local spacetime is thin here, Yousef. I'm reading Cronin leakage in the gigawatt range. The barrier between realities isn't just thin, it's practically mesh. That explains the headache, he muttered. I looked out at the valley. History called this place Armageddon, the final battlefield. To a theologian, it was where good fights evil. To a physicist, it was a stress fracture in the multiverse. If you hit a stress fracture with a hammer, the whole structure shatters. Hockney is setting up in the ruins, I said, pointing to the archaeological dig site near the center. See that geometry? The layout of the tents? Yousef raised the binoculars again. Triangular formation, Pythagorean fetishism. Harmonic resonance, I corrected. He's building an amplifier. If he activates the Wick's counterpart down there when the planetary alignment hits the solstice peak, he won't just open a wormhole. He'll invert the local causality loop. English crease. He's going to reboot the computer, I said. And he's going to wipe the hard drive us in the process. Yousef tapped his earpiece. Command says we have SVR movement on the eastern flank. They're setting up a perimeter. If the Russians think this is a weapons test, they'll want to steal it. If they realize it's a reality-altering event, they'll want to nuke it. Both options end badly for my equipment, I said. I pulled the Cosmic Codex from my pack. I'd flagged the chapter on temporal nexuses. Heinlein had been specific about Megiddo. He called it a crucible, a forge where the fate of the multiverse would be hammered out. Time is a thread, a voice said behind us. I spun around, hand dropping to the pulse pistol in my jacket. Yousef was faster. His 6-hour was already drawn and leveled at the chest of the man standing in the shade of a twisted olive tree. The stranger didn't flinch. He was tall, wearing a linen suit that looked impossibly crisp for the heat, and sunglasses that reflected the valley floor. Easy, gentlemen, the man said. His accent was British, clipped and precise, and weighty. I'm not here to shoot you. I'm here to prevent you from making a mess. Identify, Yousef barked. Call me an interested observer, the man smiled. Or a Time Lord, if you prefer the dramatic nomenclature, though I find it a bit pretentious. Dr. X, I presume. He looked at me. I kept my hand on the pistol. You're not a Time Lord, I said. The blueprints I found were 50 years old. You're barely 30. Relativity is a harsh mistress, he said, quoting the codex. I'm an echo, a projection. Or maybe just a spy with a very good tailor. Does it matter? We have a mutual problem. Hockney, I said. And Stix, he added. Alex Stix is down there, Dr. X. She's not just the bait, she's the trigger. She's wired the archaeological site with enough chaotic potential to destabilize the grid. If Hockney turns his key while she's singing her song, the paradox won't just reset reality, it will shatter it. Yousef kept the gun trained. Why tell us? Because the stranger gestured to the valley. I enjoy this version of reality. It has excellent tea and cricket. Hockney's perfect geometry is boring. No tea, no cricket, just static math. I stood up. You want us to interfere? I want you to introduce a variable, he said. The one thing mathematics cannot predict. Human error, chaos. You have the Wix portable unit? I patted my bag. I do. Good, the stranger said. Hockney is trying to close the loop. I suggest you go down there and fray the ends. Yousef looked at me. Do we trust him? No, I said, but the math checks out. If we don't disrupt that formation, we're all going to be variables in an equation that equals 0. I looked back at the stranger, but the olive tree was empty. No pop of displaced air, no flash of light. Just empty shadow. Who did he act? Yousef grumbled, holstering his weapon. I hate spooks. He wasn't a spook, Yousef, I said, looking at the sensor reading. The chronon leakage had spiked when he was standing there. He was a temporal anomaly. I packed up the sensor. The sun was dipping lower, casting long, bloody shadows across the valley of Armageddon. The stage was set. The players were gathering. Let's go, I said. I have a date with an anarchist and a mathematician, and I don't want to be late. Yousef checked his magazine. I'll drive. You navigate? We're heading for the center, I said, looking at the ruins where the tents formed their perfect triangle. Into the eye of the storm.